Alright, thanks for watching, and today I want to illustrate the energy methods applied to the heat equation. So in PDEs, there are two big kinds of methods. One are energy methods, which are based on integration by parts. The other one are maximum principle methods, based on the maximum principle, which I'll do in another video. So today, as I said, I want to illustrate energy methods. And in particular, let us show the following. Suppose that U is the solution of the heat equation, UT equals KUXX, but here not on an infinite domain, but on a finite domain. So X is between 0 and L, and then let's say T is greater or equal to 0. In other words, the idea is, suppose you have a finite rod with endpoints 0 and L, and basically at x and time equals t, U gives you the UXT gives you the temperature at point x and times t. And so U evolves according to the heat equation, and moreover what we'll do, we'll insulate the boundaries. Namely, we kind of put an ice cube here and here so that at all time the temperature at the endpoints is 0. So U of, I guess, 0T equals 0, and U of LT equals 0. And lastly, we require the initial temperature to be 0. And here's a fun game. Who am I? I solve the heat equation. Initially I'm 0, and at the endpoints I'm 0. Well, it turns out the only solution of this is the 0 solution. So in fact, I'm claiming U must be the 0 solution. So U is 0 for all x and all t. And the way we'll show this is by using energy methods, which is just based on integrating by parts. So take this equation, UT equals KUXX, and what you do to this equation, you multiply both sides by U, okay. And not only that, you take this, you integrate with respect to x. So we have integral, let's say from 0 to L, of UTU dx equals integral from 0 to L of KUXXU dx. And by the way, it looks silly, but even in advanced PDEs, all you do are energy methods. So basically the whole point of PDE research is just finding the smart function to multiply this by. It turns out here an easy function enough is U. But if you see on my 100th video special on my PhD research, all I did in my PhD was find another clever function to multiply my PDE by. And I guess the cleverer your function, the higher your degree. Anyway, and then basically all that's left to do is to rewrite the left-hand side and the right-hand side in two different ways. So let's first study the left-hand side. So let's say A, and then that's the right-hand side B. Well, for A, it turns out UTU is a derivative in and of itself. So UTU, it's the same thing as a time derivative of 1/2 U squared. Because if you use the Chen loop, if you differentiate U squared with respect to T, you get 2 UTU divided by 2 gives you UTU. So in particular, this integral from 0 to L of UTU dx becomes the integral from 0 to L of 1/2 d over dt U squared dx. And you see here we're integrating with respect to x, so the time derivative actually doesn't matter at all. So we just pull this out, and we get d over dt of 1/2 of that integral. integral from 0 to L of u squared dx. And this is, by the way, called the energy. So it's basically how powerful u is. And what A is saying, it's saying something about the derivative of the energy. And we'll see it actually says something very useful about it. Okay, that's first of all. And then second of all, let's study B. And I'm already making the whiteboard very messy. Well, for B, notice you have sort of uxx times u dx. Well, this just corresponds integration by parts. So for B, okay, we have, that's just k, integral from 0 to L, uxx, u dx. And then you integrate this by parts with respect to x. So k times, you anti-differentiate this, ux, if you want, xt times u, xt, and again from x equals 0 to x equals L, and minus integral from 0 to L, ux, and then the derivatives comes here, ux dx. All right, let's see what this becomes. So this is k times all, this whole thing with k, ux lt, ult, minus ux 0t, u 0t, minus integral from 0 to L, ux squared dx. But here's the thing, this looks very complicated, but remember, we still had our boundary conditions and our initial conditions. Well, we assumed u at the boundary is 0, so ult is 0, and also u at the left boundary is 0. So in fact, there are no boundary terms. And what you're left with is simply minus k integral from 0 to L ux squared dx. And therefore, what you're left with is simply A equals B. And this implies the following. Well, that just implies d over dt of 1/2 integral from 0 to L u squared dx equals minus k times integral from 0 to L ux squared dx. Now, it's called an energy method, so it has to do with probably some energies. Well, let's call this E. Wonderful. Then what this is saying is that the derivative of E, so E prime of t, equals minus k integral from 0 to L of ux squared dx. But look, this is, what's the sign of this? This is at least less than or equal to 0. So this is telling you that E prime of t is less than or equal to 0. And in other words, the energy is decreasing, which kind of makes sense because you think of heat as being like diffusing or decaying. So over time, the energy should be decreasing. And then, what can we conclude from it? And notice we have not used the initial conditions yet. We've just used the boundary conditions. But what we can conclude in particular, the energy at time t, this is the energy at time t because it's decreasing, it's less than the energy at time 0. And so what does that mean? 1/2 times the integral from 0 to L u of xt dx, u squared of xt is less than or equal to 1/2 from the integral from 0 to L u of x0 squared dx. But now we use the initial conditions. You know that ux0 is 0. So this energy is less than or equal to 0, but notice this is a square. So it's also greater or equal to 0. So what we know basically is that the energy is squeezed between 0 and 0, so the energy itself must be 0. But what does that imply? Well, this is a non-negative function, and the only way a non-negative function can have a 0 area is if this function is 0. So uxt squared must be 0 for all t, and therefore uxt must be identically equal to 0. Okay, well, almost everywhere, but we're assuming our function is continuous here, so indeed everywhere. And therefore, the only solution with 0 boundary conditions and 0 initial conditions must be the 0 function. Lastly, what is that used for? Well, two things. First of all, you can show uniqueness of solutions of the heat equation. Let's say suppose U and V are both solutions of ut equals kuxx plus f, an inhomogeneous term, u0l equals, u0t, that's what I want. u0t is g of t, if this is xt, ul of t equals h of t, and u of x0 equals phi of x. So suppose u and v both solve this equation, then it turns out u minus v must solve. So if you let w be u minus v, it must solve wt equals kwxx, and then w at the endpoints is 0. WLT is 0, and W x0 equals 0. Then, by what we've just shown, the only solution of this must be the 0 function. Therefore, u minus v must be the 0 function, so u equals v. So in other words, we can use this previous method to show that, in fact, there is just one solution of the heat equation with those boundary conditions, which, again, very powerful. Another thing you can show, I'm not doing this now, but you can show sort of stability of solutions. If, for instance, we change this phi a little bit, then it turns out u just changes a little bit, and it follows basically from this inequality, because essentially if the initial conditions are close enough, this will be pretty small, and therefore this will be pretty small. So it's very useful, and again, a very useful thing in case you want to have some energy estimates or something like here. And again, definitely used a lot in PDEs. All right, if you like that and you want to see more math, please make sure to subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much.